just like that. Good evening and welcome to Generation Movie on a Monday night. Thanks everybody for coming out and watching the show. My name is JW Colwell. I'm joined as always by my partner in crime, my I don't know, I think he's Sherlock and I'm Watson. I don't know, depending on how you want to look at it. Rich Drees, how are you tonight, Rich, on this fine
Good
cold
evening,
night
everybody.
in January?
Oh, how
What
cold
happened?
is it down where you are? So I can tell you to shut up.
We're in the 50s.
We're in the single digits.
Look,
Okay.
and then we're also joined by Natasha Bogutzki. How are you tonight in your dress greens?
Just skip right over that.
Yeah, I'm going right over. I'm going right over. You're making fun of my weather. Yeah, it's not my fault.
Does
You
that
guys
mean
are
I'm
freezing.
does that mean I'm the Irene Adler of the group? I'll take that.
You can be the Irene Adler of the group. Yeah, that's
Okay.
fine. Makes sense.
Neither
Welcome
of
to
you have cheekbones high enough though for me to slap.
No, I barely have cheeks. What do you mean? They just sag. I'm like a droopy dog. Welcome to Generation Movie on a Monday night, January. We are, of course, are celebrating Rob Reiner this month. But first, let's get to some business because I always get in trouble for not doing housekeeping. If you like the show, if you enjoy watching Rich and I talk about movie classics, and occasionally Natasha when she shows up in her best dress greens, please like the Facebook page, like us on Instagram, like us on TikTok. We now have a TikTok. We're on IMDb. We're all over the place as we continue to try to grow the Indie Escape Network into the little engine that could of podcast entertainment networks. And then also, if you're inclined, we have interesting things coming up. This is a big thing that's happening. These guys are back. Untrained and unscripted is what we're calling it. If you listened to a show a while back on the original Indie Escape Network, it was called Technical Difficulties. These two folks are back, Ryan and Joe, and from what I understand, the show is going to be a cataclysm of people just coming together and fighting about things, which doesn't really happen on our show, but could happen, I guess. We could get to a movie one night where we disagree, but usually Rich and I are in the same stratosphere. Now Natasha disagrees with us on a regular basis, but that's just
That's why you bring me on.
Yeah, she's smarter than we are. Yes. But like I said, I'm super excited. The remembering Rob Reiner has been a defining force in Hollywood for a long time, both as a humanitarian and as a film director. And his movies are somewhat special. The movie we're going to watch, the movie we've watched tonight, and are celebrating is almost a picture perfect movie to have on Martin Luther King Day in the United States. It is about honor and making the right choice and doing things that are on just doing the right thing. Doing the right thing is a big part of this holiday and being on the right side of history. And very much this movie is a look at that. What side do you want to be on? Whether we need people on the wall to defend us or not, we still want them to be honorable and good people, right? And that's, I think it's a perfect kind of a perfectly succinct movie to pair with celebrating Martin Luther King, one of the great statesmen of our country. Civil rights leader gone way too early, and asked all the right questions and forced people into the right path for a certain period of time. But let's get some comments and then we'll get started. We'll start with news. We always start with news. Let's see. Joe Ridgely, good evening all. Good evening, Joe. I'm only demand because I did your housekeeping. Mr. Food Skater, okay. Mary Shuford, finally one person that says what? Okay. Hi. And how do you again? Hi. Let's do news, Rich. Will Avatar ever
Okay.
get from the number one perch, Rich? That's the question. Avatar Fire and Ice.
Eventually, probably not
Fire
for
and
another
Ice,
week or
yeah.
two.
It's. I think it's probably. You know what I think? I'm going to give you a shocker for what I think is going to knock it out of first, and it's a weird one. There's a movie coming out in 2 weeks. Well, first off, Send Help looks like it's going to be really great in 2 weeks, right? It's a Sam Raimi movie. Rachel McAdams looks pretty great.
Well, you got me at Sam Raimi.
You got me at Sam Raimi, yes. But there's a movie coming out in 2 weeks called Iron Lung that nobody is talking about, that everybody besides regular movie folk are talking about. It's done by this YouTuber that has about 50 million people that really like his work. It's based on a video game. It's an all independent production.
I know what you're talking about.
It's an all independent production. He doesn't have a distributor. He somehow has that movie in 2,500 screens.
He's four-walling it all around.
He got an agent. He got a manager that understands booking and exhibition, and basically this guy has gone around and went to all the different film theaters around the country, and now it went from being on 150 screens to 2,500 screens in less than a week.
It is going to be playing actually at the Art House in downtown Scranton, and a friend of mine is really excited for it and wants to go see it.
Yes,
not only because they're a fan of the game, but also of this content creator.
Yeah, this content creator. It's a sci-fi game.
Have you mentioned the content creator's name?
I don't know how to say it. I don't want to say his name because I don't know how to say it.
Markiplier.
Okay, whatever the fuck it is.
Oh my God, where have you been? Markiplier's been big for like. I know. I don't even game or do this kind of stuff. I know who this is.
I watch YouTube with my nephews. We watch videos of Five Nights at Freddy's playthroughs and other stuff. That's basically all I watch on YouTube with them. So I don't know that I have time for this.
This is going back like a decade.
Anyway, great. I know nothing about him. I'm sorry, I don't know anything about him. But what I would say is the biggest story of the weekend is that he has basically forced this movie into 2,500 theaters without contracts, without a distributor, just with one guy going door to door, peddling it, saying, if you play it in your theaters will be full. And somehow he has 2,500 screens in 2 weeks. So it's either going to go really big and shock the world, or it's going to tank and not. But I think that's where we're headed. Send Help, somewhere around there. But the movie that everybody thought it was going to be number one this week was a movie called 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple, which, by the way, phenomenal. Like, really good. Like, fantastic performances. Jack O'Connell was also in Sinners. Ralph Fiennes reprising.
Try not to give me any spoilers. I was going to go see it this morning, and I couldn't.
It's ghastly and ghoulish and gruesome and
perfect,
amazing in every sense of the word. It's focused not necessarily on the infected.
I have not caught up with it either. This weekend I was supposed to actually do extended Lord of the Rings, and then I got snowed out. Basically, I didn't want to get up and shovel my car out on Saturday. So next weekend when they redo it, though, I am doing Two Towers and Return of the King next weekend, and also I think Friday night I'm doing Regal's Gladiator screening of the original Gladiator. If I can find somebody to go
with whom? With whom?
With this. Wow,
so
this is a close-up.
Scariest close-up ever.
I'm quoting Daffy Duck now.
I did.
How off the rails is this show already?
The real one I hit upon this week was Temple of Doom played on Wednesday. And Raiders gets played a lot. Last Crusade gets played a lot. You know what doesn't get played a lot? Temple of Doom.
Because it's not good?
No, it's fantastic. Just stop that. That's terrible.
I'll be seeing Temple of Doom on 35 in March.
No. This is the order I watched those movies in. 3, 1, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, Dial of Destiny, and then Temple of Doom.
That's
Really? You only got around to? I didn't realize that. I don't know how that one escaped me. That I let you go for that long.
That's terrible. That's a
'Cause
terrible
you know
order,
what?
by the way.
I hate the screaming bitch. I want to shove a rag in her mouth.
Okay,
Most of the movie.
well, I don't think we should talk about rags in the mouth with this movie we're doing tonight. I'm just saying,
No, Jesus, no.
like, what is wrong with you? What side are you on? Anyway,
Mm.
so I like Temple of Doom. I think Temple of Doom is one of those movies where it worked well when I was 12, or worked well when I was 10. It still works now for my inner 10-year-old. Like, on many levels, it works very well. And if it didn't go over the top, we wouldn't have PG-13 movies. So everybody should be thankful. Um,
Um,
but Bone Temple didn't do well this weekend, which is.
no,
Let
it
me
did
ask.
not.
Let me ask a question.
And
Do you think too soon? Is it the kind of thing where we had a release in June, 7 months later we have another sequel? Is it just? Do you think it's the appetite, or do you think it's what is it? Why did this movie not do well? It's at 95 on Rotten Tomatoes with an A+ cinema score or an A cinema.
I think it's the month.
You think it's January?
Yeah.
Interesting.
January films are notoriously slow, and most people assume, without people talking about it, most people assume that all movies that are released in January are either pickups from December that are now going wide for awards, or they're shit.
I was thinking about this today. This is an interesting point. I agree with that. But I would also say that we've come full circle on the film calendar. There really is no downtime in a film calendar now, the yearly film calendar. I will tell you what I think one film company should do. I think a film company, whatever studio decides to put out a kids movie on Martin Luther King weekend, at some point is going to make $300-400 million, because there are no kids movies out. They're off from school, and I looked down at my phone this weekend. We're trying to get them out of the house to do something, and the only choices I had was a movie called Charlie the Wonder Dog, Zootopia, which they've seen 3 times, SpongeBob one showing, and Madagascar 20th anniversary. And it was bleak. And then I looked up, and the only movie that they've got coming out kids wise, February, you got Goat, and that's it. Like, kids movies are in rare supply these days, which is interesting. But Fire and Ash bombing is depressing to me, but also I don't want to get into the weeds where we blame it on Nia DaCosta, who I think is
not Fire and Ash, Bone Temple.
Bone Temple. Did I say Fire and
You
Ash?
said Fire and
Yeah.
Ash bomb.
I'm sorry about that. But I don't think we should blame Bone Temple failing on Nia DaCosta. It's a sublime direction. It's really well done. It's super interesting. It may be the best of the franchise since the original. Like, it's a really good movie, and I can't believe it's going to fall through the cracks. I really can't. But I think we're gonna be talking about Ray Fiennes next year at some point. It's a really subtle. Horror movies don't get a lot of credit for acting, but okay.
I'll bet people forget about it.
I look at it this way. Before we go on to, I think the other thing that we need to talk about, which happened on Thursday, this movie is the reason why Sony will never sell to Disney the Spider-Man franchise. Spider-Man makes ridiculous amounts of money, and it allows Sony to kind of invest in smaller films like Bone Temple, that I'm sure they want to make a return, but if they don't, they can be a little bit more, riskier with their filmmaking, because they have this huge pile of Spider-Man money sitting around. So whenever you hear somebody says, "Oh, Disney should just buy back the rights," or Sony should just give the rights to Spider-Man to Disney, or any of these kind of moronic things that don't understand how the industry works, that's right here. why that happens, because Sony doesn't have theme parks to amortize their losses with. They don't have cruises. They don't have, ridiculous billions of dollars in merchandising every year coming in. Sony has Spider-Man. Spider-Man keeps the lights on at Sony, I think.
Right. Sony doesn't have anything except for the PlayStation. They have things. It just I also think the other thing about Spider-Man, there was a big story about Spider-Man a couple days ago where basically they're getting ready to shift everything over to Marvel produced Spider-Man movies that they may be in fact giving up, which a huge sigh of relief from Spider-Man fans everywhere. Just anytime you guys want to give up, that would be great. Okay, what's the story you want to talk about from Thursday? What's the it's never happened. Anytime you want to give up, that would be great.
Apparently, somebody stepped down from her job over at Lucasfilm last week. At the end of last week, Kathleen Kennedy, after 14 years of running the company for Disney, after George Lucas basically sold it to them, stepped down. All the worst people in the world, were insufferable about it. But I look at it this way: if somebody dedicates their life to coming up to me every single day and saying, "You're going to die today," one day they'll be right. Not that they had any kind of forthcoming knowledge or anything like that. It's just that my ticker gave out, or I was 107 years old and it was time.
I think the saddest part of the story is that this concept that, look, I like Filoni. I like the other producer they've set up as a line producer. I like Filoni's stuff. But at the end of the day, it's one of the hardest fucking jobs in the world. Making Star Wars fans happy. Making Indiana Jones fans happy. Making is the hardest fucking job in the world. And yeah, she had her missteps. Solo is always going to be a misstep. Although I think it's a good movie. I think it's better than it gets credit for. I think.
Hey, Arthur.
My take on Indiana Jones films also, Rich, which is an Indiana Jones film. Even the worst of Indiana Jones movies are better than half the movies we get. So, we can blame Kathleen. Now the wheels are up. We are beyond blaming a woman for ruining our kids' stuff. Is essentially everything should go swimmingly now, right?
No, they'll pivot. They'll hate Dave Filoni. They'll hate this other person too, who is outside of the creative aspects of it.
I think the person they wanted in charge is Favreau. I'll be honest. I think they wanted Favreau in charge because I think, and this might be the right concept. Favreau with the Mandalorian. I think if you ask a lot of Star Wars fans, Mandalorian hasn't had a misstep. So if you want to say
some people don't like the third season. Some people are upset with how Book of Boba Fett came in and still had a couple of episodes of The Mandalorian shoved into it. I don't necessarily feel that way, but I'm saying there is a perception out there that the third season wasn't as good. And that does lead to the question, will people want to turn out for a theatrical film in lieu of sitting at home and watching a fourth season or whatever? Lots of questions about the future of Star Wars and stuff like that right now. I do want to point out, though, that I love the idea that we have a creative CEO and a financial business side
financial
CEO.
One. Yeah,
this is
I
just
think that's
it's just like Gunn and Safran over at DC.
It's too big a mess to handle, right? I'd
kind of like to. I'd like to see more studios kind of go this route. Not just like genre studios. Marvel doesn't need. Marvel's doing fine with just Feige, but just overall, in general, the person in charge, Abdi and DeLuca at WB are doing it great as a double team too. Maybe we need for some of these other studios, like say Paramount or Lionsgate or whomever, somebody who's more concerned about the creative stuff and somebody who can handle the business, and they work together to do what they need to do. Because we often hear a lot about business decisions that sounded like you guys just threw away a really cool creative opportunity. And hopefully,
I would have liked Zaslav to have that kind of like somebody on the side going, "Hey, let's not ruin everybody's lives with the Scooby-Doo animated Christmas movie or Coyote versus Acme or Batgirl."
Mm-hmm.
That's right. I would also say, Paramount. Paramount. I've loved my entire life. It's home to some of the greatest movies ever made. But I am nervous as fuck about I am nervous as hell about Paramount being taken over by the Ellison family. I'm
not thrilled with them.
He sent me a link where he's still trying to buy Warner Brothers, and every time that man speaks and he gets more nervous, it just makes me more nervous because he's just like crazy. I want to take it over. Give it to me. I'm rich. It's like that scares me. How about this? This is an interesting story I want to talk to you guys about, and this is from a content perspective, incredibly interesting. And then we'll move on and talk about A Few Good Men, which is fantastic. But Matt Damon did an interview with Variety where he basically, talking about his new movie, The Rip, with Ben Affleck that premiered in the last couple of days. He basically says they got notes from Netflix every day where, and this is the headline, Matt Damon says Netflix wants movies to restate the plot 3 or 4 times in the dialogue because viewers are on their phone while they're watching and not paying attention, and they don't want them to leave. And then as you no, as this is happening, as I'm reading this article, all I can think of is, holy fuck, that is how Netflix movies work. Like, the first thing happens, there's a big action sequence, and then they repeat, like, this is what the story is. And there's an action sequence, and then they repeat, this is what the story is. And I'm like, we're idiot proofing, low attention span, folk proofing our movies on Netflix. And they're about to have one of the crown jewels of studio filmmaking in 125 years of filmmaking. Warner Brothers is one of the crown jewels, and we're now going to take our Netflix philosophy of you need to explain to the idiots every 4 minutes what the movie's about. Are we nervous at all?
Unfortunately, there really is nothing that we can kind of do about that. But I will say, not only is that an apt description for Damon to say, I was definitely sitting there going, how many times have I been watching a film on my phone and I have to pause it because something else requires my attention? And then all of a sudden I have gone away from it for so long that it may be days before I get back to it. Now I'm getting back to it and my brain is going,
I don't remember anything.
Remember everything that I just saw.
I need to remember.
But I know I'll get a recap in the next 4 minutes by someone.
The tragic thing for me is during the interview, he talks. And this is an interesting thing, but it's an old timey movie thing. And maybe Rich remember this as well, or maybe you will too, Natasha. But Howard Hawks used to give they would have Howard Hawks and John Ford and Hitchcock and people talking about movies. And Howard Hawks said, you need 3 action set pieces and you need a bunch of good characters around, right? And so in the middle of this article, Damon's talking the standard way to make an action movie, as we learned, you have 3 set pieces, one in the first act, one in the second, one in the third. Spend most of your money on one in the third act, that's your finale. And now they're like, can we get a big one in the first 5 minutes? We want people to stay. And it wouldn't be terrible if we reiterated the plot 3 or 4 times in the dialogue as people are watching on their phones. It's the most surreal,
Yeah. They want a bigger hook.
Or like Matt Damon knows the Howard Hawks rule, right? Matt Damon knows this classic Hollywood rule: 3 action set pieces, you move it along, you build characters, and here he is talking to Netflix. It's like, yeah, we know the big action set pieces are coming, but we need a big one, otherwise we don't get the attention, and then we're not in the algorithm, and then what? And it's like, I can't, Damon giving this interview is like, it's like Matt Damon saying, I never want to do another Netflix movie again. Ever.
Yeah, I did get that vibe.
Yeah.
Netflix is all about engagement. As long as you keep watching their stuff, no matter how good or bad it is, they're happy because that means you're not watching somebody else's. Even though you're still paying them the same amount of money, whether you're watching 2 hours of content a month or 42 hours of content a month.
Yeah, it's just surreal. I think that the idea that this is like, for me, it's making movies for the lowest common denominator, right? We had another thing happen over the weekend where a filmmaker in Britain said, you want people to start going back to theaters, you better start making movies that are less than 2.5 hours long. And it's like, if a story needs to be told in 3, like Oppenheimer at 2 hours and 10 minutes isn't going to work the way Oppenheimer at 3 hours works, right? The way Lawrence of Arabia doesn't work 2 hours and 10 minutes. I feel like we're focusing on the problem isn't the movies being 3 hours. The problem is that phones and computers and apps have shortened our attention span to the point where we can't shut off for longer than being plugged into the algorithm. And once we had a 3-hour movie, it's like, holy shit, what's happening?
I'm going to play devil's advocate here. I both agree and disagree with that statement. I think there's a little bit more to it. First things first, yes, our attention spans have been chopped down. I was in a diner 2 days ago, and I can't believe I'm saying this. I was in the bathroom, and I heard people outside the bathroom talking. And they're like, oh, yeah, I was watching Ford versus Ferrari the other night. Fuck, that's a long movie. And my brain was going, you call that a long? They're like, how long is it? Well, it's 2.5 hours. They're like, oh, yeah, that is a long movie. Yeah, I can't go see a movie like Avatar. That no fucking way are you going to get me to sit down. Literally, quote unquote, no way are you going to get me to sit down for 3 hours about random blue people, quote unquote. And I personally
that's
think
just an unwillingness to engage with the whole premise of the film at that point.
Hold on. The length was the issue that they were discussing.
Yeah, the length is the issue. I've had a friend say the exact same thing.
And it's not just that. People will sit down for a long movie if it's something they're interested in. But that is few and far between right now with all the IP, and there's nothing really new and engaging, and people are looking for new and engaging, which is why they go to a lot of the streaming service properties, because they're adaptations or they're more fresher content than traditional IP work. Yes, the IP work like Stranger Things. Stranger Things is original. But Wednesday,
Stranger Things is now IP. It's now Netflix
it
IP.
Is.
Yeah.
Now it is.
No, I got
but it didn't start that way. It was a Netflix original that just happened to break the mold. Bridgerton, for them, is an adaptation. Wednesday is IP. One Piece is IP. Every now and then, though, there's smaller things. Right now, one of the bigger shows on Netflix is The Diplomat. Fresh IP. It's something new. It's something engaging. I think people are tired of IP. They're tired of going to the cinema, and that's all there is. There's so much of it that they're like, I'll wait for it to.
The thing there is, Natasha, they don't go to like last year. Rich and I were talking about Black Bag.
They don't to the second part of this.
I'm sorry. Okay.
I remember.
Let her finish, dude.
So the other half of this is when I was discussing going to see Bone Temple this afternoon. I was a little bit on a tight crunch, and fairness, I wasn't feeling all that great to begin with. And it was a choice between that and going to get some food. And I wasn't feeling good, so I chose food. And the other deciding factor in that was, it It'll probably be streaming in about 2.5 weeks anyway. That was literally what I said. Those words flew out of my mouth. And no sooner had I said them, I followed it up with, and I know that's the mentality that's going to kill cinemas. But it is not just the length of the films and the engagement of getting people to go to the cinemas. It's the fact that the window between cinema and streaming has closed so much that no one wants to go to the cinema and spend a shit ton of money when they know in about 2.5 weeks it's going to be on their television. They don't have to leave the house in a massive snowstorm or pay a shit ton of money.
We when I ran and was in theater, the biggest thing we used to go NATO, not the NATO that is in trouble with our current president, but the NATO, National Association of Theater Owners. We used to go to that meeting, and as an independent theater, we would say the thing that hurts us the most is when a company takes a movie and says we're going to put it on video in 3 months. Like it kills it.
And now the window is between like almost 19 days.
It's 17 days. Universal is
even worse.
Universal is the one that's actually come up with it, the smartest plan for Universal, which is if a movie is a hit, it extends out. But if it's not a hit in the first week of release, we invoke the 17-day window so it'll be on Peacock in about a month. And that's where we're at. And other studios are kind of following suit. But thank God we lived in a world, Rich, when we used to go to movies when we were younger. They didn't have these problems. First off, hi to Jamie Hill before we start. Production.
Hi, Jamie.
Let's get into it. Well, first off, I have this great picture of Rob Reiner with the kids. Where did it go? Actually, this is the You Can't Handle the Truth episode, by the way, of our show tonight. There it is. Look at Natasha down the bottom, all gung ho. But the picture there with like Bacon and Moore and Rob Reiner. The funny thing is, Rich, every week when I'm making these placards for our show, there is a picture of Rob Reiner with the biggest stars in the history of Hollywood, all smattering around him in the best mental state of their lives. Right? It's what makes this special, right? It's what makes it an incredible. He's just an incredible filmmaker. And so the movie tonight is A Few Good Men, and this is before Aaron Sorkin was big, right? So Aaron Sorkin was not very big at the time this movie came out, but he had wrote basically. I don't know if you guys have heard the story, but the story is incredible. Basically, he got this story from his sister, right? And I was reading about it today. It's one of the most incredible things where his sister, he heard the story, and it was kind of a much bigger group of Marines, and apparently it's based on a true story, although it never says inspired by a true story or anything. There was actually some legal action we'll talk about later in the in the show. But basically, he came up with this talking to his sister, and just the idea that he had heard from her, and it's just one of those weird stories where she had heard she had signed up as a 3-year stint as a U.S. Navy Judge Advocate General Corps. She was a graduate of Boston University Law School, and she heard this story about a group of Marines that participated in a real code red. And so some of the names are close. William Alvarado was the 1986 private that was originally part of it. I don't think people know a lot about the concept that he was, at this point, Sorkin was poor. So he wrote every night when he was bartending. He would write everything out on cocktail napkins in his downtime. And because he didn't have enough money to buy a computer, which is kind of hilarious. Like when you look at it, you're
Well,
like the idea that one of the
in
most
the
profitable
80s, though,
actors in the history of Hollywood will eventually get to buy a computer and it'll be his prized possession, and then he would come home and take out pockets of empty napkins with all the stuff on them and type out everything into the computer.
I will say this in my days back when I
So
was covering the local
you know
music scene,
that happens,
there
and
have been
basically
times where I have gone ahead
and
and
plays rights get sold to David Brown before it appeared, and apparently the play sold for well into six figures. The rights to it, but basically Brown had read a New York Times article. And it was all about Sorkin's one-act play called Hidden in the Picture, and then he learned that he also had a play called A Few Good Men that was having Broadway off-Broadway readings at the time. Brown was producing at the time at TriStar, and he said, "I really want to do this movie." And then they tried to finance it and figure out how much it would cost. The acquiring rights notwithstanding, and then Brown, of course, eventually received a call that would change everything from Alan Horn of Castle Rock Entertainment, who we talked about before, um, basically saying Rob Reiner, one of our producing partners at Castle Rock, wants to direct the movie. At this point, Reiner and Sorkin worked 8 months writing the script. William Goldman, which is just a great name that comes up in movie history here and there, one of the great screenwriting gods. Would you say God, Rich?
gurus.
He's one of the
Yeah,
screenwriting,
guru.
you know, people where you just look up and you're like, this guy's a god. Like
He's literally written the book on
the book on
screenwriting.
how to write a screenplay. And taught a class for years at
hmm
USC. Sorkin liked his changes so much that he incorporated it into the stage version of the show. Um, so one of the changes that Goldman came up with was the removal of the forged logbook that served as the trial smoking gun. So like they're actual changes. Film gets a budget between $33 and $40 million. Tom Cruise was cast first, and 33 of that $40 million budget is his $12.5 million salary. Then Demi Moore is cast. The most interesting casting: Wolfgang Bodison, who ends up playing one of the young Marines charged with the crime. He was a film location scout working for Castle Rock, and he was asked to take a screen test for the role of Dawson. Went gangbusters, got the role. James Woods, who was a very intense actor at the time, he wanted to play Jessup, but then they got Nicholson. And Nicholson, can we talk about this for a second? We talked when Batman came out. I wore the Batman shirt because I love Nicholson. And I think of Nicholson all the time. But Nicholson in the '80s, late '80s and early '90s, Rich, is there a smarter actor with regards to contract dealings that you've ever seen?
At that time,
I'm being
certainly
serious.
not. We've
Yeah,
spoken about his
his
Batman deal.
his prowess, his prowess to look at material and go, not only will that material do well, but it will do well with me, right? So he gets cast as Jessup, and um, any idea how much he made for 10 days of shooting?
I
10
believe the
days.
term is a metric shit
What?
ton.
Yes, he got $500,000 a day. He got $5 million for 10 days of shooting, and he made Reiner work around the schedule of his other film at the time called Alpha. So that happened where he basically got paid $5 million for 10 days of work. And then one of the jokes that Nicholson said when doing the rounds for this movie was, "It's the best money they ever spent. It's one of the few times when it was money that was well spent on me," which is prime Nicholson, right? Now, the other funny thing about it is he
Of
gets paid
course.
all this money, but then he gets into a huge fight with Columbia. And this is interesting. He gets into a fight with Columbia Pictures, even though they paid him handsomely, and it is a it's a star turn performance because they moved the film's release date to directly compete with Hoffa. which is a movie he had been making for years. He had been trying to make, and it ends up he releases A Few Good Men and Hoffa get released on the same day, and one of them survives, and the other one gets buried in in the Meadowlands. Um, it's a
Well, to be fair, Hoffa's not that great a film.
no, it's not. No, but the interesting thing there is like he gets paid a pretty penny. He's arrogant about it, and then he basically gets super angry when they move the movie to the same date as his movie. And it's just one of those Hollywood stories where it's like they can move the movie anywhere they want to put it, dude. You know what I mean? We're gonna like it's now a rite of passage. I have 1 or 2 days on the calendar year where 2 movies are coming out with either the same actor or same set of fans. You know what I mean? Like it happens once or twice a year now. But in the past, it did. Production filming began on October 21st, 1991, in DC, and then the film's Guantanamo Bay scenes were shot in Southern California at Crystal Cove State Park, Fort MacArthur, and the Naval Air Station Point Mugu. Um, Although 200 off-duty Marines were allowed to serve as extras for the film, the U.S. Department of Defense denied the production of permission to film at Marine Corps Base Camp Pendleton. And then the courtroom scenes were all filmed at Culver Studios in California. So there was a little bit of controversy, but for the most part, Sorkin and Goldman and Reiner craft this movie. They try to create a traditional courtroom drama that kind of like is like the old timey courtroom dramas that we had, like Advising Consent and Anatomy of a Murder and The Kane Mutiny, and it's a grand history, but it's also one of those movies that feels important and is important and serious. But no other real production notes. There wasn't a lot of fighting over casting. And one of the interesting notes for the casting of this movie is if you pay real close attention, it is a hodgepodge of very important people all over the place. And obviously you have Cruise, Nicholson, Moore, Bacon. Yeah,
I was gonna say Kevin Pollak on his old podcast / talk show / YouTube thing would every now and then tell a funny Jack Nicholson story. So if you're, first of all, Kevin Pollak, fantastic stand-up comic, incredible impressionist.
Yeah.
And as I was watching it this evening, I was kind of thinking to myself, okay, that scene where Tom Cruise suddenly mocks Jack Nicholson's character by going into a quasi Jack impression there.
400. I eat breakfast 400 feet from
yeah, that scene. I was like, did Kevin? And he's doing it to Kevin Pollak's face, and Kevin Pollak does a pitch perfect Jack Nicholson. I'm like, did Kevin Pollak give Tom Cruise notes on how to do Jack or not? I was starting to wonder as I was watching that. But
I just realized
what
that
I'm basically
you first.
I was gonna say, long story short, too late. That I would recommend Kevin Pollak. He's not doing his show anymore, but go back, track them down. They're still on YouTube. They're really very well thought out. They're very intelligent interviews that he does on that show, and they're funny as hell too, because he will tell some stories of Hollywood that'll just have you laughing.
Yeah, Natasha, go first. Yeah.
This is also the second Kevin Pollak film that we have discussed on this show in the last month. If you have a chance, go back and check out one of our Christmas episodes from Grumpy Old Men.
Yeah,
also,
that's right.
If you want more modern day Kevin Pollak, watch The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
That's right. Yes,
Pollak is also fantastic in the usual. He's fantastic in a lot of movies. He does tell a story about Reiner and Nicholson. There was one, I think it was on the Rich Eisen show, that you can look up. It's Rich Eisen Pollak talking about A Few Good Men, and basically the idea that Nicholson was on all the time during the courtroom sequences, and that Nicholson kind of viewed it as young Turk, old Turk, young bull, old bull, young lion, old lion, and told Reiner that, I'm gonna go off. Just have your cameras rolling when it happens, kind of stuff. Which is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But no controversy really behind the scenes. Like Reiner and Sorkin, this is the second movie in a row we're doing with Reiner where he gravitates towards a gifted writer and then takes the gifted writer, works with the gifted writer. We could learn a lot production wise from Rob Reiner, working with the writers of famous movies that where other directors kind of mold a movie into their kind of movie. Reiner not only brings out the best in the writers like Nora Ephron and Aaron Sorkin, but the writers bring out the best in Rob Reiner, like humanistic tendencies, his humanitarian tendencies tend to leak into the movie and vice versa. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
it's really special production wise, and like the idea that the, the time frames on these things. We talked about the time frame last week on When Harry Met Sally. The time frame on this with you know with Sorkin is years. In 1988 it starts, and then they spend 8 months writing the screenplay. Right. Um, we'll talk a little bit about the controversy and the the lawsuit in a little bit. But let's go to happier things for this movie. Box office. This is good times because we don't get movies like this anymore, kids. And so this movie opens on a December weekend, December 11th, 1992. It goes wide. It does not open as most Oscar movies in the time frame did, uh, leveling like we've talked about before. It opens on 1,925 screens. It eventually goes to 2,200 screens. It runs an average of 10 and a half weeks in theaters. It grosses $141 million domestic in 1992. It was one of the bigger hits of the year. It also grosses 95 million overseas, which at the time wasn't as big a commodity as it is now. We're going to have $1 billion movies this year, but they're all $1 billion movies because of overseas. And so it ends a worldwide box office total of $236.5 million. Um, again, the opening weekend is only 15.5. So it eventually does 15.5. The budget's 33. So this movie ends up grossing 7.2% times the production budget. Anything over five, Rich, is
Mm-hmm.
a multiplier that studios can't expect anymore or don't expect.
No.
The adjusted amount. Anyone want to guess what the adjusted domestic box office amount is for inflation?
215.
Too low. How about you, Rich? You want to give it a go?
327. This is like
Also
the worst.
385.
This is the worst.
385.
Well, at least I didn't bust.
This is the worst
Yes.
game of Price of Right.
Yes,
for the
yeah,
Price is Right is ever.
she did not go over, which is fine. If she was, I should have let her go second, and then she could have done $1 and maybe beat me. But anyway, but 385. So it's like a $400 million movie for inflation right now. And that we don't get a lot of $400 million movies. $400 million movies are right kind of in the middle. And this movie is one of those movies where it's very much it's the kind of movie that isn't made anymore, right? So like big budget dramas that grosses $141 million don't grow on trees anymore. And this is at a time in 92 when they did, right? Um, which is sad. Anyway, we don't get them. They don't make them like they used to. It is a legit thing with this movie. Critical response then and now. Another good sign. Um, Few Good Men, though, I was surprised at this. 85% on Rotten Tomatoes. We don't use it as an aggregate just to get a gauge on what I think 85 is kind of low. The audience meter, the popcorn meter they're calling it now, is 89%. And Rich, a shocker. This is a movie that our good friend Roger Ebert did not like. I was reading it and I couldn't believe it. I was shocked at the at just how hard he was on it. Um, he
Damn.
gave he gave it 2.5 stars and said its major flaw was revealing the courtroom strategy to the audience before the climactic scene before Cruz and Nicholson. Ebert wrote, in many ways, this is a good film with the potential to be even better than that. The flaws are mostly at the screenplay level. The film doesn't make us work, doesn't allow us to figure things out for ourselves, and is afraid we'll miss things if they're not spelled out for us. I thought that was interesting. I thought that was interesting, and I also think it's one of the rare times you're going to hear me say this. I think Roger Ebert's wrong on this one. I think maybe if he got a chance to go back, he might. I was I was marveling at it today. Like it is, it's tense. All those sequences with Demi Moore and Pollak and Cruz, where their working strategy is. I don't think we get that in courtroom dramas, right?
Mm-mm.
Most courtroom dramas don't have that. They have talking to the clients or they have whatever. But the strategy sessions where he's playing with the bat and are just something that you don't normally see in courtroom dramas, and I found them really engaging. I also found this
He's
is one
right
of the,
and wrong.
yeah, no, I think he's right. They do spell it out for us.
No,
He's
no, no,
right
not about that. About the just section. By telling us way in advance how he's going to try to get it. Yeah, it almost guarantees an end game of he's going to get it because it's the hero versus the antagonist. We're in the third act right now. There's got to be a climactic end to it. You know he's going to get it. But I think that's not the point. The point isn't whether he is or isn't. And I think Ebert's missing that. I think the point is how and at what cost.
Yeah,
And
no, I agree with that.
yeah.
I think part of it is that we know he's got to get him to do it. It's like it's never that is never in doubt that has to happen. And with the character, like I said, I a thing that I took away from I was talking about in the green room. I didn't remember quite how repugnant the Nicholson. Like I remember Nicholson being repugnant. Don't get me wrong. He forced the kid to get beaten. I'm not, but I don't remember him being quite this repugnant. But he is absolutely a fucking douchebag at lunch when they meet.
Oh,
him
even
he
I
is
haven't watched this
in a
film
while.
in about 10 years. It's because I'm Joanne Galloway was kind of a role that got away from me once. But
I was totally thinking about that too as we were preparing for this. I could
it's
totally
the
see
hair.
it.
It's the hair, isn't
It's
it?
the hair. You have Demi Moore hair, which isn't bad.
Not a bad thing.
Not a bad thing.
But no,
Well, also
me,
too,
I love that scene.
the film isn't the story of the trial. The film is the story of Tom Cruise coming out from under his father's shadow to being his own lawyer. And we need scenes where he's talking with Kevin Pollak and going, would you think my dad would put him on the stand? No. And then he's like, well, that's why I've got to do it. Those strategy sessions aren't, they're about quote unquote the case.
It's more about him.
It's
Right.
lenity and
really
insecurity.
him making those steps forward towards becoming his own person. And we have a rooting interest in that growth for this character. And that's why when they have the big blow up there at the end that, has become memeified, basically, that's why we're emotionally involved in it. We're not so much emotionally involved in the case. We're emotionally involved in Cruz's character's journey, really.
The interesting thing, I know people fight about Tom Cruise, and there's, he had a bad moment on a couch, and he's part of a cult. All of these things are true. But what I would say, the interesting thing about Cruise is when Cruise shows up in some of these movies, I think his biggest claim to fame is that when he shows up in these major motion pictures, and he's paired up with the biggest stars of his time. He's paired up with Dustin Hoffman, or he's paired up with Jack Nicholson, or like all those times. His acting jumps off. Like it is like he is very much the basketball player that when he has to face another basketball player of equal or Hall of Fame level, the game goes up, the game rises, it shoots to the roof.
Just in terms of the quality of his work overall, setting aside crap like Night and Day, how many of his films have we done here on the show? We've done the entire Mission Impossible franchise.
Because it deserved it.
Have we done Legend?
We haven't done Legend.
I feel like we've done.
Which version?
Which
version?
Which version of Legend?
We already had this conversation last time.
3-hour European.
You know what I'm going to say, and you're going to get mad at me.
No. I say we do a war, a battle.
You want to do a battle of the
serious.
European version?
Two on two. So as we know, our friend who is at lunch agrees with the director's cut, as does Rich. I go theatrical, you go theatrical. Hilariously, those two are both Pisces. Both of us are Capricorns. I'm very intrigued by
chocolate's in my peanut butter. My peanut butter's in your Legend. My peanut butter's in your chocolate.
Mm-hmm.
Haven't we
done some other?
We've done a lot of Tom Cruise. We've done a lot of Tom Cruise. I think I have spoken about Tom Cruise on Loud Nerdy. I've spoken on here. Tom Cruise gives me 120% no matter what movie I'm watching of his. So I don't care about all the other crap. I don't think he's done anything horrible, like except get stuck in a cult. And to be honest, at this point, we have 72 million people in a cult, so it is what it is. And so, but what I want to say is when he gets going, like this movie is incredible because he gets the interactions he has with all these different actors where he's bouncing off people in scenes. It is one of his best performances. Like I was watching it today, marveling. He has great moments with Pollak. He has great moments with Moore. He has great moments with Kevin Bacon. There are the sequence where he sits down with Kevin Bacon and has Markinson, and he's just popping like popcorn in his mouth. And he's just like, and Bacon's like, I don't think you realize how much trouble you're in. Like, and he's like, whatever. He's just kind of it's very much also, this is a perfect side piece compliment to Top Gun, this movie, for him, because it is a grown-up version, not necessarily what Maverick would become, but a grown-up version of what the Navy is after you get past the volleyball games. Although it's still softball. You know what I mean? Like, it's a real interesting performance. Nicholson is great. It's one note, but it is a fantastic note. You know what I mean? Like he's just barn burning from the get-go. I think Kiefer Sutherland, who's had a really bad week, is also very good in the movie. But also the other thing I was going to talk about, this is an amazing launching pad.
James Masters is, if you remember him on Twin Peaks, as James Hurley, who was kind of a dopey guy, good-hearted, but kind of, just not 100% connected to what was going on around him. I don't think this guy is like 20 times dumber, and and you feel bad for him because he just doesn't understand. And I think
the kids
Masters really makes that.
It's Marshall. It's James Marshall.
Marsters, excuse me, walks
Marshall.
that.
Marshall, not Marsters.
Marshall. Sorry.
You're thinking Buffy.
I've been up since 5:30.
I got you. Wolfgang Madison's really good.
But he walks a very fine line of making the guy kind of dumb, but you sort of like, buddy, I'm sorry. You want to give him a hug and pat him on the head.
You're not going back to you're not going back anytime soon to your platoon. Yeah, there's that really sad moment where soon, like Demi Moore says it, and I'm like, Demi Moore's kind of singing in a condescending fashion. But other people show up in the movie too. Like, one of the things I think that we have to start looking at, that I think is an interesting thing as we do this retrospective, right? This remembering Rob kind of thing. He gets the very best performances out of elite actors that other filmmakers don't get. For some reason, I don't know what it is. I don't know what the magic in the sauce is, right? Like, you have your grandmother's Italian, or your aunt or uncle's Italian sauce, and you don't know what the magic is. It might be sugar, it might be whatever they put in it, where you're like, this is really good. And I think Rob Reiner, he unlocks that for a lot of actors, right? This movie, like, even the side performances, Cuba Gooding Jr. shows up in a scene. Noah Wyle shows up twice, and it's like, I was thinking about this. This is right around the time when he's just starting to take off, right? So Wiley, he's in A Few Good Men, he's in Swing Kids, and then 94,
I forgot he's in Swing Kids. Oh my God.
94, he gets a little role on this Michael Crichton medical show, and Noah Wyle becomes a household name, right? So it's one of the interesting things is that a lot of the people in this movie are really good actors that are kind of just, I think they're just hanging out. Like Matt Craven's in it, Christopher Guest, right? We talked about him a little bit as Dr. Stone.
You had a West Wing alum show up just to come in and say, yes, sir. Yes, sir. And close the door.
Xander Berkeley, also an underrated actor, like an 80s, 90s actor. Like,
your mic cut out.
I'm sorry, Xander Berkeley, underrated actor. And then JT Walsh, right, as Markinson. So and he gets all of these performances out of these actors, and then he gets the movie is finally crafted. It's a 2 hour and 17-minute movie. It's right around the right amount. Like, I was thinking about things you could have cut here or there, but for the most part, well, I'll give you an example of something I was watching where I was like, that sequence where there's a sequence where Tom Cruise has a moral dilemma, and then they have a whole series of sequences where he's walking around DC, and it's beautiful, but I don't know that it's necessary, especially for this character, because I think this character is one of the characters. I'm not talking about the night he gets drunk or anything like that. I'm talking about the night where he's thinking about what he might do or about something, or I might give up my doing the case, and then they go and he's sitting on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, and I'm like, yeah, the steps of the Lincoln Memorial are nice. I've been there. It's beautiful. But it's just one of those things.
You have to. I think you have to show that a little bit, because otherwise it's like he storms out, and then the next scene he comes back and goes, "Okay, guys, I thought it over." You have to kind of give that a little bit of space between those two beats.
I'm trying to help the people, Rich. I'm trying to help the people with the short attention span. I'm trying to help. But
movies are exactly as long as they need to be, and this one is perfectly.
I understand. What the movie has up its sleeve, though, that the last fucking day with him versus Nicholson is some of the best courtroom stuff. There's a lot of good courtroom moments in the movie, though. I forgot about some of the really great ones. Like when Noah Wyle is on the stand, there's a moment where Noah Wyle is on the stand, and Bacon does this incredibly dramatic thing where he walks over and he's like, this is the Marine, book of training. Where's a code red in here? Well, it's not in there. And then he brings it in, he's like, it might be a Gitmo thing. And he brings over the Gitmo thing. He's like, where's it in here? And as Bacon's walking back and they announce the redirect, Cruz takes
Where's the mess hall?
Where's the mess hall? How have you eaten over the last 3 years? How can you not? How can you find it if it's not in the book? It's so there's
even he looks like he's laughing and going, "Oh, okay, you got me, whoopsie doo."
Bacon, Bacon has a great Bacon responses to it when he comes to tell me he has Markinson, and he's like, You had a great day, Danny. That was a hell of a move, buddy. And Bacon's really good here. Bacon, it's one of Bacon's best performances too. Like there are a series of really good performance. Might be even Demi Moore's best performance. It's
I
not Nicholson.
love the respect that also that we see between the two lawyers who are, yeah, they're different branches of the military, but overall they respect that they're lawyers, they're friends, they play ball.
Mhm.
Play a
They're
little
people.
softball.
Yeah.
I would say, in regards to Demi Moore's performance, yeah, of this era of her work, definitely her best performance. A little bit further on down the road, at the risk of getting slapped by Will Smith, I'm going to say G.I. Jane was also a really
Amazing
great performance from her.
Yeah, no.
As was Just the Substance a few years ago. So, but yeah, this is definitely top three. Demi
I am
Moore.
a fan of Indecent Proposal.
I'm a fan of.
Okay, that's in the
I'm a
top
fan of
five.
One
We can
Crazy
put that in the
Summer.
conversation.
Anyway,
Also, Woody Harrelson's one of his best performances in that too.
but I
Woody.
think the interesting thing is that Reiner, when he gets a group of actors in a movie, all of a sudden everybody's amped up to 11, right? That's
Nice.
yeah, I know. That's why I have a podcast. But like I said, I rewatching today. It's the courtroom scenes they crackle. There's a zip to them. There's the traditional Sorkin writing, which is crisp. Everybody's going back and forth about big boy issues, right? We have big boy. We're talking big boy things like what does honor mean? What does code mean? You know, there. And
You
like I
guys just
said,
live in Sorkin's world. I'll be over here with my West Wing,
sorry,
my
you
Hugo
were
Men.
doomed like the rest of us to this hellacious hellscape timeline that we're in. But like I said, I think the interesting thing about it is the movie holds up remarkably well. Like it doesn't like if you showed this movie to a group of people today, like I don't think it comes off poorly. I think you can get away with showing it to people, and I think
Mhm.
it's one of the best movies of Rob Reiner's career in the sense that it is big boy issues, and he is taking the next step with all these different actors where like he becomes like one of the great directors because of what he gets from his people. Here's where it gets fun. Now pick up your book again, Natasha.
It is also interesting that the only movies I watched this weekend both had to do with America and military. I watched Team America World Police for the first time.
Oh,
how'd
that's a
that
double feature with this.
Matt Damon.
Fuck yeah.
Okay,
Fuck
so this one's season 3 and 4 scripts, but it's
But
the only
that's
one
okay. That's okay. But here's why it's important: legacy and franchise viability. The biggest thing that comes out of this, yes, the biggest thing that comes out of this for Aaron Sorkin is he becomes a household name, and when he becomes a household name, magic happens for Aaron Sorkin. And I was looking at like, so he has all these plays, he has whatever. The biggest thing that comes out of this is that Sorkin becomes like he writes A Few Good Men. He writes Malice, which is a fantastic 1993 movie with Alec Baldwin and Nicole Kidman, a
Mhm.
fantastic thriller. And then he writes The American President, which we're going to be talking about, Charlie Wilson's War on the Social Network, Moneyball. But then he does Sports Night 98 to 2000. The West Wing comes in 99. I would argue that the West Wing doesn't exist without the credibility that he builds up on this movie. This movie
Agreed.
becomes so famous.
Oh, absolutely.
It becomes so important, and it becomes one of those things where like every actor, right? Every actor wants to say his words.
Well, he has the way he writes is beautiful. There's an ebb and a flow to it that doesn't leave a lot of room for improvisation. It has to be done verbatim. But he brings such a depth in those words and makes every character unique that you don't need to improv. You're like, you don't need to step on a set and say, I want to change this because I don't think my character would talk like this. He's already written that character perfectly for you.
For the character.
He doesn't have a writer's voice.
Yeah, I here's where I noticed it. There's a lot. It's kind of a throwaway thing in the middle of the movie. But he asked Sam, Cruise asked Sam, did you hear anything about Markinson? And he's like, yeah, I checked with my friend at NIS, and if Markinson doesn't want to be found, he's not going to be found. And in fairness, I could be Markinson, right? At which point Tom Cruise stops, looks over. Are you Markinson? And Sam goes, no. He goes, well, I'm not Markinson. Whew, we got through that. Like,
I mean, that's such a great encapsulation of their friendship dynamic. I mean, they're just bantering back and forth the whole movie, but just something as like absolute, you know, they're in the middle of this crazy serious stuff. They're stressed out.
Yeah.
They say, wait, are you Markinson? No. Okay, well, I'm not Markinson. Okay, you know, that they can just take that moment to.
And can we talk about the walk and talks? Already a signature in this film.
Yeah, the walk and talks are a signature. Like, there's a great walk and talk with Joe and Kathy where they're walking and he, you know, she's like, I outrank you, and I talked to Aunt Jenny and like all this other shit, and she's just kind of piling on, and she goes to say something. Goes, I just want you know, I just want you to know, I know whatever you're thinking, you know, we're gonna make it work. And then later on in the movie, they echo it. They have another sequence where he gives a big thing, and she's like, she's going to say something to him, and he's like, I just want you to know.
I just want to make certain you wear matching socks tomorrow.
Yeah, I just want to make certain you wear matching socks. And he's like, oh,
great. Good tip.
Good tip. And it's very crisp. It is the Aaron Sorkin way. It is the biggest legacy out of this movie. And then the other thing I would think of is there can't be any actors or actresses in Hollywood in '92 who, if Rob Reiner calls you, you don't say yes. Right? If Rob Reiner says, I really like you in this movie, everybody looks at the checklist of the Rob Reiner movies at this point, and nobody's coming out of them without reaching superstar stat, like without having the best moment of their lives, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's an interesting legacy. I would also say, you know, one of the legacies of the movie is the "you can't handle the truth" thing has become this kind of like, it is an interesting
a mantra almost.
It's a mantra, but it's also an interesting Rorschach test. Who do you believe on the wall? Do you want the Kathy who's smart, intelligent, Harvard trained, or do you want the gruff, you know, talking about, you know, the shit he says at lunch? I was like, I had totally forgotten the shit he says at lunch. That is so offensive. That is like, it's beyond offensive. And then it just like, I also think it sets up the entire movie, because when it happens, that's when Cruise gets pissed a little in his mind, and he's like, I'll just need the transfer orders then, just because you're being a douche, you know.
It's a total power play.
Total power play. And then he's like, I'll get you the transfer orders, you have to ask nice. And it's like, ooh.
And then he tells him exactly how he wants him to do it, and it is just
it's great sequence. But you know, this is one of the things. This is a legacy movie also for Cruise. This is one of those movies where, if you look back at Cruise's lengthy resume, this is one of the movies that, and I'm going to say this as somebody who comes from the past and looks at things. This movie played so much on TNT during the summer of like 96, 97, 98. Like the Shawshank Redemption, it became your favorite movie because it was on so fucking much. right?
So it's not that it's good or great or that you even like it. It has the "It's a Wonderful Life" syndrome. It becomes a classic because it gets played so much.
No, I don't mean it like that. I
Pummeled
just
its way
mean,
into your head.
well, no, but I think there is something to some of our favorite movies getting the replete, like, and this is traditionally Warner Brothers movies and Sony movies and TNT during the 90s was a great way to become an all-time classic. And it's one of those things. Funny also, legacy wise, this line, the "you can't handle the truth," right? Line has become one of the most important lines of dialogue in the history of cinema, right?
It has.
Yeah, this movie made the list. AFI's 100 years, 100 heroes, 100 years, 100 heroes and villains. Jessup is one of the nominated villains. 2005, AFI's 100 years, 100 movie quotes. You can't handle the truth. And then AFI's top 10, AFI's 10 top 10. It's the number 5 courtroom film of all time. So AFI did a really great retrospective in the 2008 where they did the 10 best genre movies in each genre. And the courtroom drama, this was number 5. And I was looking at that today going, there is some incredible, that is some incredible company to keep. Ready? Judgment at Nuremberg is 10. A Cry in the Dark is 9. In Cold Blood is 8. Anatomy of a Murder is 7. Witness for the Prosecution 6. Few Good Men 5. The Verdict is 4. A fantastic Paul Newman movie. Kramer versus Kramer is 3. 12 Angry Men is 2. And To Kill a Mockingbird. So it's in the same.
Wow. Okay, I was actually shocked a particular movie didn't make the list, but those top 2, I did have one of them. But I was thinking Mr. Deeds Goes to Washington.
Yeah, but not. Okay.
It is actually in the AFI's greatest 100 movies of all time, but yet didn't make the list in this category.
Yeah, I think the key there in that AFI top 10 is there has to be sparks in the courtroom scenes, and all of those movies in the top 5, right? Verdict, Kramer vs. Kramer, 12 Angry Men, To Kill a Mockingbird, like they all have hops with regards to the courtroom scene. Courtroom scenes are brutal, and all the Verdict, especially, like the Verdict is one of those movies where you just you watch, you can't believe. First off, you can't believe that Newman was sober enough to get the film made, and then you can't believe that they made a movie about that. The one I was shocked about on that list was not having Injustice.
Interestingly enough, since we're talking about this movie and Sorkin's legacy, he also recently did a new adaptation of To Kill a Mockingbird for Broadway, which featured his newsroom star Jeff Daniels. I saw it; it was incredible.
Yes, the idea that he went back.
It was nice seeing him go back to the roots of this.
Yeah, but we're going to talk more about his legacy and viability as we progress. Let's get a comment as we're. What's up, fellas and ladies? I guess Jerry. There's a lady too.
Hey, Jerry.
Hey, Jerry.
Thank you for joining us. We appreciate you, my partner in crime on Tuesday nights. I don't know why I just did Tuesday like that, but anyway, in wrapping up.
Tuesday.
Yeah, it's like a bad sequel from the 90s. Tuesday. Wrapping up, it's one of the better courtroom movies that had I forgot, I haven't done any pictures on it. I had all kinds of pictures. I had great pictures here and there. And this, of course, is the look at him eating scenery. I found some of the stuff, like, I'm not done with you. Sit down. Like, there's some great stuff. It's one of the best movies. Like, this is him at lunch. What a douche. Skadoosh. Again, the wonderful JT Walsh, who we lost recently. And it's just one of those movies. No Wiley, but it's one of those movies that I think it holds up remarkably well. It has a crackerjack. The end is crackerjack. Getting to that moment is just. Then you get to the moment, you're like, oof, things are not going well. Like, this is, whew. But it's a great movie. What are your last thoughts on A Few Good Men?
Go watch it.
Yes.
That's
Now
all
that
I have
we've
to say.
spoiled
It's
it, if you've not
incredible.
seen it before, whoops.
Go watch it again. Would be the.
I
would
mean,
be.
we didn't spoil the verdict, so go watch it.
We haven't. Yeah, we haven't really spoiled. We haven't talked about that, and it's like
We
is
don't
one.
talk the plot. Have you noticed
Yeah.
that? We always
no,
talk production and everything, but we never talk plot for those who haven't seen it.
Well, and that's. I think that's because we're more of a technical film history show and review show than we are like going over like it's more for me one of the cool things we do on the show is take a movie out of whatever way you're watching it and put it into historical perspective. And I think this movie, it stands the test of time. It holds up remarkably well. It has all these faces that you will recognize, that you look back and you go, oh my god, I forgot he was in this. And then then you watch Nicholson and Cruise go at it, and it's just like a fresh face Cruise, and he's really good in this movie. Like, I enjoy Tom Cruise performances most of the time, no matter what he's in. But
I was eyeing up the soup. I was like, the shoulders look good, the little tie there.
Again, my favorite parts of the movie are him like thinking, I'll get it down in 12 years.
Yeah.
Like, he's
like
such
you
an
haven't looked at a
arrogant-
piece of paper and you're already
haven't
thinking.
talked to a witness, haven't looked at a piece of evidence or a piece of paper. Yeah, 12 years. Then nobody wants this because it's embarrassing.
Well, one of my favorite moments actually is after he comes in and enters the plea deal or the plea of not guilty. And then everyone just looks at him and he goes, why would a lawyer who's only been out for 9 months, who has a history of plea deals, be told to take this case? Is it because they don't want it to see the inside of a courtroom? That realization, and he was just like, that's why I'm doing it.
The other realization there's a great moment where he goes to Kevin Bacon and he basically he gets the most perfect deal for these two guys that have murdered this kid.
Oh yeah.
And he gets 2 years. They'll be out in 6 months. They'll be home in 6 months, Danny. That's the best I can do. And he goes back and he's talking to Sam and he's like, he offered it to me and I don't even know who Kendrick is.
Yeah.
And it's just, so everything kind of stinks of high heaven. So there's the traits of honor, the traits of morality. You can the end line where he says that you don't need bars on your shoulders to have honor, Harold, right? And that it's an incredibly important movie, and the timeline we're living in, the day we're living. Go back and watch it again. Okay, next week we continue our jaunt down Rob Reiner Boulevard, and the way we do that is the American president.
Yes!
It's happening. It's all happening. It's like she's an Almost Famous. American President, another Aaron Sorkin, Rob Reiner jaunt together, and a particularly great Michael Douglas Annette Bening movie. It's one of the absolute best of political kind of comedies. It's also got a fine performance that we're going to talk about in its full entirety. Michael J. Fox is great. So he's
the Josh Lyman before Josh Lyman exists.
I am a huge Michael J. Fox fan. I love all of his work. Even Bright Lights, Big City. So That's the deep cut. But next week, the American President. Natasha, where can people find you if you're out like jaunting on a stage, or where can people find if they want to talk to you, or they shouldn't talk to
A
you?
lot of times you could just find me Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I'm currently not doing anything. I like to take my winters off. Just way too much going on. So
You guys got snow. Rich, what about you? Where can people find your stuff? What do you?
I always
what are you
have
looking at?
snow.
Well,
Oh boy.
if you happen to live in central Pennsylvania.
Pause.
What?
And go.
If you happen to live in central Pennsylvania, you can see our latest short film, Murphy, which will be screening at the Wellsboro Film Festival the weekend of, I believe it's February 20th, 21st. We just found out about it over the weekend, so this is kind of our first public announcement outside of where we mention it on Facebook and associated places. You can find all of my writing at filmbuffonline.com. Filmbuff Online also has a Facebook page and a Twitter feed, and I can personally be found on Twitter at FilmbuffRich and on Twitter and Blue Sky and Threads. I have a Threads account that I hardly use, so encourage me to use it more.
I'm on Facebook, Blue Sky, Threads, Instagram, JW the Movie Guy. You can also catch me on Tuesday nights with the other nerdy and fun people on this network, Loud Nerdy on Tuesdays at 9, where we discuss more pop culture and other things. We also have a show coming up next week, but I also want to announce that we will also be doing a special show. There's something happening this week that's important. And, Oscar nominations are coming out, and Rich and I have decided that we are.
How did I forget about that?
How did you forget about that?
Are you doing anything Thursday night?
Are you doing anything Thursday night, sweetheart?
I don't know. Well,
then we hope to see you. Maybe we'll see you. Maybe we won't. That's the biggest cliffhanger we can leave with tonight.
Rich.
Not bad. 51 seconds is not bad. If you like our show,
I don't need this abuse.
On Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, any of those places. Thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you for joining us for our Remembering Rob episode. You Can't Handle the Truth. Next week, the American President. Have a great week. Go see some movies. Got some things opening up.
We'll see you Thursday night at 7.
7-ish. We'll discuss.
Yeah.
It'll be up, but we'll be discussing Oscar.
We'll let you know. Watch the feeds.
We're gonna watch the feeds. We're gonna let it simmer all day, trying to figure everything out and how pissed off people are gonna be or whatever is gonna happen as it happens, and then we'll have all your kind of end of the day kind of like look at everything and where the race stands. Because I think it's a 3-movie race. I think it's a weird year where it's a 3-movie race, but it's going to be like, I think they're going to split them up pretty well, but I think a lot of technicals are going to go to one movie and all the big awards are going to go to one movie, and then some of the acting awards are going to go to another, and it's just going to be a mess. But it should be fun, and it's going to be a great year, and because it's one of the best years we've had. Thank you for joining us. Too cool. Looking forward to it. We appreciate that. And hopefully if Natasha's not busy, she'll be here. Thank you for joining us. Have a great week. We'll see everybody next week for American President.
Have a good night.
Bye.